I could not believe a movie this hyped could still surprise me, because I was just expecting to walk into something so exciting. And then I was like, wow, this gave me so much more drama and depth and nuance that I'm like, I'm so glad that's what they led with. Yeah. What's going on there, Reject Nation? We just attended the Spider-Man No Way Home premiere, and we just wanted to give our instant reaction, honest thoughts after watching the movie. You guys know, like, how much we were looking forward to this film. There's going to be absolutely no spoilers here. I'm going to be exceptionally careful with how to phrase what we're saying. And they turned off all these lights, and there was a bunch of noise earlier, so sorry for it looking a little bit darker than usual. It's the best the sound's going to be in the lighting right now, but I had to hop on here really quick to tell you guys how we felt. And I'm just going to start with how I felt when the movie was done, which was a unique feeling, something I don't really get to experience too often. When the credits started rolling and I was sitting in the crowd, I wasn't like filled with like all this heart pulsing excitement. I was sitting there in awe. I was sitting there impressed. I was sitting there going, they did it. They made a pure Spider-Man movie, and they didn't just make a Spider-Man movie, they made a great movie. While it was funny, exciting, action-packed, sure, the movie breathes well, it takes its time, it feels like pure Spider-Man with the themes it chooses to explore. The stakes and consequences are palpable from beginning to end. This is easily Tom Holland's best performance that he's done in the, like, people I don't think are prepared for just how freaking fantastic he is in this movie. He is incredible. There's more to touch on. Before I get carried away, John, please.
Yeah, exactly. I had a similar experience with this where, you know, we watched it with a crowd that was really into it, that was really responsive, that was cheering and hooping and hollering and crying and weeping. And I definitely had a lot of those reactions, but when the movie was ended, and even throughout, I was just sitting there going, wow, this feels like something special. This feels like a moment that I will remember. You know, because we see a lot of spectacular movies. But this really does have that kind of endgame quality where you're like, oh wow, they're taking a swing and they're doing something big. And what's awesome about that is it takes a lot of apprehensions that I know we've shared about the previous MCU Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. It rectifies a lot of that stuff with confidence and with hard decision making. I mean, this is a Spider-Man movie that will give you certain things that you want, but also will give you some things that are challenging and that hurt.
Yes.
And whether that be in the emotional stakes or the action, even the action in this movie felt
violent.
It felt like violence more than action in some cases. Yeah, I was quite swept up in this.
It's darker than the trailers let on. It's way more emotional. You know how much we cover on this channel with Spider-Man No Way Home. And I was even talking with like Cosmic Wonder, still full of surprises.
Even despite all that.
From beginning to end and hearing certain things of how they might go down plot point wise, watching the execution was even surprising in that regard. Coy, my man, the person, we are here because of him. We got some special interviews of red carpet interviews to show you guys. But Coy, what'd you think, man?
I think as a Spider-Man fan, it systematically went through every single issue I've had with Spider-Man in other mediums but the comic books and went, hey, I'm paying attention. Here is the answer to X, Y, and Z. And it did it in a way that felt smooth, efficient, and plotted out in a way that I feel like this was written over the last 20 years, like 30 years, 40 years. It gave me Spider-Man from the 60s. It gave me Spider-Man with Tom Holland. It gave me Spider-Man that felt so true to the character, but it also felt like it fit with what we've had with Tom so far. And the visuals, like I love a good psychedelic journey. And this, to me, was a better Doctor Strange movie than the Doctor Strange movie we've had so far. I'm sorry, Scott, I love you. This was so surrealistic, and the comedy was maybe even funnier than Homecoming, and I think Homecoming might be the funniest Spider-Man movie so far. I just can't get over the fact that I laughed and cried, and sometimes both, and my tears blended together in like this cacophonous medley of just fucking emotion, and it was Spider-Man. At the end of the day, all of that being said, this might be the most authentic Spider-Man movie I've ever seen.
And Peter Parker movie.
And
Yes.
Peter Parker. Like, my favorite Spider-Man movies are honestly Spider-Man 2 and The Amazing Spider-Man. The things that I love about those, I'm talking tonal-wise, exploration, themes, that's present here. So when I'm saying like this is one of the best Spider-Man movies, I'm not talking strictly in terms of fan service. while there's fan service here, as you see presented in the trailers, it's not great because of fan service. It's great because it's a great movie. That's something I was pleasantly surprised by. John Watts' direction in this, whoa, this guy learned style. Whoa, this guy learned, he learned the editing room.
Marvel let him have the style.
Like there are stakes and consequences, and there is tension throughout most of this, and just beautiful scene work. Michael Giacchino's score is brilliant in this film. This is something I wasn't expecting to say. I was rather surprised by how I felt when it was done. Green Goblin. Holy crap! I was like, he's better in this movie than he is in the first movie. I was like, how'd they do that? How'd they pull? He's so menacing and insidious, and Willem Dafoe gives such a great performance.
And it feels like a mix, as a comic fan, of Ultimate Spider-Man mixed with 616 Norman Osborn. There's so much going on, both in its action and its pathos with the Goblin. There's so much just happening at you, and it really establishes the character better, I think, than we've seen him in live action. It's a really astounding performance.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is that I felt like with Lizard, it was two-dimensional. Sandman, they lost some of the three-dimensional stuff that you would sort of hope for, at least. They still kept the three-dimensional layers of Doc Ock and Electro. The one that just stood out the most was definitely Green Goblin. Like, don't get me wrong, they're all good in the movie.
Yeah.
They're all enjoyable. There are certain choices they make with particularly Sandman and Lizard that I wasn't too fond of. I can't go into specifics as to why. Can you kind of guess what I'm getting at?
I can. I'm very excited for a spoiler review.
Yeah. There's a couple of choices.
I feel myself overthinking.
There was a couple of parts that I was like, I don't know why they chose to do it that way, but okay. But they're all great. Aunt May's wonderful in this film.
Everyone in Peter's life.
That's the thing is,
MJ.
The FOSs, man. The Friends of Spider-Man.
when I watched Far From Home recently, and to give you guys an idea, Homecoming and Far From Home are closer to the bottom of my ranking when it comes to the Spider-Man films. When Far From Home started, I was like, why is Peter in love with MJ? Where'd this come from? And then it's like, they're cute, sure. I really cared about them a lot in this movie. I'm pretty sure one part brought you to tears, if I'm not mistaken.
I cried a few times
movie
for
was
real,
done,
not just like one or two, just like legit cry.
When the movie was done, I looked over at John like, his whole face was just wet.
That thing where just like tears just start to come, and you're not even going, ugh, like you're not sobbing, but they're just coming. They're just going.
I have to say, because of the unique experience in the theater, that and I've got to watch them both back to back, but my favorite Spider-Man movie is probably Into the Spider-Verse. And because LA, I got to watch this right next to Lord and Miller. Hearing the moments that they cheered at and feeling their emotion was exactly the moments I was feeling. So I told John Watts after this was over, this is the love letter to Spider-Man that I've always wanted to see in live action, and this is the love letter to Silver, Bronze, Modern, Ultimate, every age of Spider-Man. And I love that John Watts just loves the character, and John Watts was like, oh, I'm gonna make Spider-Man. This is a masterpiece.
I would want to watch it again,
Absolutely.
just to be safe, before I've given official ranking of where it's at. But right now, I'm a pretty solid, like, 9.5 out of 10 on this movie. While I think there is some parts early on in the film where some of the dialogue back and forth with some of the villains was a little bit off to me, because they have to do some catching up and exposition stuff. Some of that seemed a little bit off. While there's some choices about certain villains I wasn't a big fan of, not that it really bothered me immensely, but I was kind of like, huh. Okay. For the most part, this was an amazing Spider-Man movie. All puns intended. Yes. I mean that sincerely. Like, I could not believe a movie this hyped could still surprise me, because I was just expecting to walk into something so exciting. And then I was like, wow, this gave me so much more drama and depth and nuance that I'm like, I was so glad that's what they led with.
Yeah, I mean, it's really immediate. It hits the ground running, and it throws you into a very tangible, albeit very sci-fi situation. And it doesn't let go, and it never loses sight of what's important. You know, it's got the laughs, it's got the action, it's got all the things that you want, but more than anything, I feel like spiritually, it's on point. And that's the important thing, because it's easy to please people with a Spider-Man movie. It's easy to have a passable Spider-Man movie for people to eat up. I thought they really fine-tuned the actual underlying point of it all and never let that go, and that's perhaps the best thing I could say about it. For all the fan service, all the things people want, that never takes over the movie to the point where it loses its spirit.
At no point did I feel like this movie was made for anyone except Spider-Man fans, and that's the highest praise I can give it. At no point did I feel like this was made to appease blank or blank. At no point did I feel like this was anything except for Spider-Man. Whether it was the drama, whether it was the comedy, whether it was the snark, whether it was the love, whether it was the supporting characters, whether it was Tom, This was a Spider-Man movie that I cannot wait to watch over and over again, and maybe even more importantly, talk about with everyone, because it's an important piece of art, and Spider-Man's an important piece of art. There's a reason we all love Spider-Man, and this is something truly special. This is exceptional.
This was character driven.
Yeah.
And
100%.
shit, I can't tell you like how relieved I was. I'm telling you, like, you feel like life or death stakes in this movie.
Yeah.
That's also what's like, you don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch this movie.
ASAP.
Keep a lookout for when we do a spoiler talk, because there's plenty to spoil.
It's gonna be an hour, because this has been, I feel myself going like, say the things.
This is a great movie.
Very well done.
See it. I also give it an A.
Landing.